Hi everyone, it's Luna. I am back after I don't know how long. I don't really want to think about that because, yeah, apologies, but I'm slowly making my way back to getting into the groove of things once more. And in today's video, I wanted to do, oh shivers, I don't even know what I want to do. Why didn't I prepare? I didn't prepare ahead. One moment. Testing. Work for me, baby. I am ready to start. I will be doing my yearly hopefuls for the rest of the year because I have decided to scrap TBRs because I'm very much a mood reader and having prompts, it doesn't really work for me. And I feel like I DNF most of them and it's not really fair. And I'm like, what's the point of doing a TBR jar video? And so I'll be sharing with you my monthly/yearly hopefuls for the rest of the year. I am using a very old, unused notebook to write down all the things I need to share with you because I'm using my phone to record and all my stuff is on there. The books I'm planning on reading in June include Metal Slinger, books 1 and 2, because book 2 is coming out in June. And if I get time to squish in another book, I will probably do a thriller standalone because recently I've gotten into thrillers and I never thought I'd be a thriller girly. And thanks to my best friend, I've unexpectedly fallen in love with reading thriller books. Between June and July, I'm thinking of reading A Wraith Beneath the Tides because book 2 is also coming out then. In June, July, I have In the Veins of the Drowning, books 1 and 2. As you can see, there's a pattern this year. I'm trying to smash out my standalones and my duologies. And even if I squish in like a trilogy, that's fine. And then next year, I want to focus on trilogies and so forth because I just want to do it that way. Is it because my OCD is, there? Yep, 100%. In September, I'm thinking of reading my most daunting book, which is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. And oh my goodness. Okay, so I loved books 1, 2, and 3. And then I think I got a little bit burnt out because they are so chunky. They are over 1,000 pages each. And I just been putting it off for 2 years, maybe 3. I'm so bad. But I really want to finish this series because it's part of 2 arcs. So if I can complete books 4 and 5, I will be happy that I'm sort of caught up. And following that book is Wind and Truth, which is the final one in October. And in November, December, I'm thinking of reading The Seventh Champion, books 1 and 2, because as you would guess, book 2 is coming out in that time. And I've heard not too many things about it, but I've also just been really intrigued and I've seen some positive reviews on it. And I sample read the first chapter and I was hooked. And for December, it's a bit of a free reign month because nearing Christmas holidays, I don't know if I'll have that much time to read. So I'm just going to be reading one of my most, if not my most anticipated, highly anticipated books of the year, which is City of Phantom or Phantom, how do you pronounce it? Book 3 by Catherine Doyle. If you have not read or heard of The Dagger and the Flame, it is one of my favorite upper YA trilogies, even though I haven't finished it yet, of all time. It is so good. I'm not going to go into it because I'm going to talk more about it in another video, but I am so stoked for it to come out in December and I will gobble it up. I just really hope that it'll be a fantastic finale. And also, for my book club, we'll be reading 2 more books this year. And originally, this book club was just going to be cozy romantasy. However, like I said before, my best friend introduced me to thrillers and I have never been the same again. So I've made it a cozy and thriller book club, which is really quite ironic, but I love it. We get a little bit of cozy and easygoing, and then we get full on thriller, scary suspense in your face. And I'm here for it. I love to change things up. I have also found recently that I I thought I was just a romantasy girly. I thought that I only would love one genre. That's it. But I have to say, I need a bit of a genre palette cleanser every now and again. And cozies and thrillers are the best because they are standalones, they are short, they are fast paced, and they're just a good time. So those are my yearly hopefuls for the rest of the year. All right, now moving on to okay, quick announcement before we move on to my wrap ups so far is that I have started is that I swallow so much. I'm so sorry. When I speak, there's just too much happening in the saliva production area here. So, I've started a Bookstagram account on Instagram where I post all my reviews because they are more concise. I took more time to really put all my effort into the reviews. Whereas I feel like if I have to talk about books and what I think of them on the spot in front of a camera, my mind just goes blank. So I'm going to give you a really quick, I guess, overview and review on each book, not go into depth. And then if you want to check out a more in depth review of the books I've read so far, please go check out my Bookstagram account, which I will link below and on my BookTube profile. You know what I mean. Hi everyone, it's Future Me reporting back because Past Me forgot to add a couple of important details in her video yesterday, so I'll be here to amend that. Starting off, I just wanted to apologize that I totally forgot to mention that I will be also including my January, February, and March wrap up in this video. Not April wrap up because I had a brain fart and yesterday me thought that there were 4 months every quarter, three months per quarter, okay? Yes. So ignore me if I mention April. But yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way first. And second, I thought I might just mention that I'm really liking the format of posting quarterly with my wrap up. So I might do that instead of doing it monthly from now on. So yeah, I'll just go with it. Are we ready? Because I think I finally am after all this time. I read a few books throughout January, February, March, and April. So here we go. Let's get into it. First book is 10,000 Stitches, which is the book club pick. And my best friend and I had the best time reading this book. It is a Regency Fae, kind of like Bridgerton meets fairy tales. And this one is centered around the loose retelling of Cinderella. I really enjoyed getting back into the book because it is a interconnected standalone series. And in the previous book, we were in the fairyland for, I don't know, 2.5 seconds. Whereas in this one, we got more of the fairyland and exploring that part of it as well as the real world setting. I loved the main protagonist. She was just really charming and very resilient. Oh no, that's a spoiler. So let's rehash. A lovely maid, Cinderella like protagonist. She is in love with this man called Benedict. I don't know if he's a duke or whatever. So he has a high station, but she knows that she can never really be with him because she's just a lowly maid. And so she makes a deal with a fairy lord. I can't remember his name right now. It's been forever since I read this. Only January. My memory sucks, by the way. Don't quote me on anything. I don't remember what I have for breakfast. So anyway, she asks him to help her get the guy, the Benedict. And I will not spoil who she ends up with, or that's Benedict or the fairy lord, but it was quite a fun time, very whimsical. I loved their journey together and their romance was very sweet and wholesome. The next book I read was a disappointment through and through. I didn't hate it, but I definitely didn't like it that much, and that was Spinning Silver. I just hate when I'm disappointed. I hate when I get my hopes so high and then they come plummeting down and just making a scene, like a murder scene on the ground. So, this book was so slow for starters. The writing style was very old timey and it took me so long to get into it. And I didn't like the characters, I couldn't connect to anyone. There were too many point of views going on. And it's really hard to talk about this book because it's just there's so much going on, but at the same time, not a lot of substance. I don't know how that works, but for me, I struggled to also understand when the point of view switched because at the start of each chapter there wasn't a name to go with the point of view. So midway through the chapter, the point of view would just keep switching and switching, and I would just have to waste some time to try to figure out whose head we were in. And there's like this frosty king of some sort, but I there was absolutely no chemistry between him and the FMC at all. I don't know if that was meant to be the point. He just kind of took her as a prisoner to turn, I think, silver into gold or something like that. I don't know. See, I can't remember. I don't remember books that I don't like. That is the point. I did not like the ending as well, so that also, you know, comes to show the low rating that I gave it. Like I said, I'm here for a little sprinkle of romance, but the plot was giving me absolutely nothing, and everything was just so dreary and melancholy. Also, trigger warnings because there's a lot of talk about grief and abuse and loss and all that stuff that keeps repeating itself throughout the book incessantly, and that's something that I just couldn't handle. It pulled me away from enjoying the read. I think that this book had a lot of potential to be so much more, and I feel like the parts that I wanted to be fleshed out were not, and vice versa. But yeah, that's those are my thoughts on that book. The next book, which is my first 5-star of this year, finally, right, is Kings of the Wild, and I did not expect to love this book so much. Look, when I go into high fantasies, I always have in the back of my mind that things are going to be really heavy with world building or with the writing style, or it's going to be very, I don't know, like boy coded. Does that make sense? But although it had a cast of predominantly male characters, I loved them all to bits, like they were my family. This book was so creative and unique and so much fun. I laughed out loud so many times, more than I can count. I connected to most of the characters, if not all, for completely different reasons, which I love so much. And they will always stick with me. And I will definitely reread this some point in the future. I forgot to tell you what it's about. Just quickly, it's kind of inspired by D&D, but add in these grumpy, old, fat, retired, I don't know, middle-aged men who are part of a mercenary band, or were, and they've gotten back together to do one last mission to save one of their daughters from peril. And I thought that the whole journey through and through was super fast-paced, entertaining. They were witty. They just tried their best, even though they encountered all these obstacles, which you would think, oh, they're maybe too old to do this. But with a bit of luck, actually, maybe a lot of luck, and a lot of heart and strong alliances and friendships and courage, they did what they needed to do, and in the best way possible. I cannot recommend this book enough. If you're looking for a fast paced adventure, please read this. Oh, and it's a standalone, so don't have to commit to a big series, which I love. Standalones are my best friends. All right, the next book, another disappointment, is called Fated to Fall, which is a novella, I don't know, romantasy in a, I don't know, autumn setting, fairies, fae, shapeshifters, boring characters, no chemistry, very lust forward. I don't like that. Not much happens in the plot with the characters. The only thing I liked was really the lush scenery of the autumnal setting. I truly did think that was the highlight, the only good point about this book. But besides that, it just didn't give. So, yeah, that was that. And now moving on to my favorite book of this quarter, which is my favorite book of all time now. And I fear I will take too long talking about this. So, be prepared, because I'm going to pour out my heart and soul right now, because I need to talk about how much I adore this book. I fear I will never have the right words to explain how much this book changed my life for the better. Okay, the book is Alchemized. A lot of people love it, and for good reason. I've always been a Hermione fan, growing up watching Harry Potter and then knowing about how everyone shipped Hermione and Draco together. I thought that was the best thing that had ever happened, but also the best thing that never happened, that should have happened. I swear, if I was J.K. Rowling and I had, created the original Harry Potter books, and then when it got adapted to screen, and then someone said, "Oh, look, I think that Hermione and Draco should be together despite what you wrote," I would say, "Yeah, go for it, please." Just do it. I cooperate because I'm sorry. This is why I scroll endlessly on TikTok watching the AI Hermione fanfic videos, and I'm so sad right now. So Alchemized is a very complex book. It is 1,000 pages, but man, it did not feel like 1,000 pages. I ate it up in 2 weeks because I was busy with work and other commitments. Otherwise, I think I would have devoured it in less time. But it's about what would have happened. Oh no. So the original fanfic for Hermione was is called Manacled. The premise is, what if Harry Potter had died and they had not won the war and Voldemort rose to power and he took in the, I don't know, the good people of Hogwarts to serve as surrogates for the Death Eater families. And in that one, Hermione was tasked to be Draco's surrogate, and they go from there. Whereas Manacled, it had to be rewritten in a completely original and new way for copyright reasons, of course, and because this author deserved to tell the story that should have been told. I loved absolutely every aspect about this. The magic system of alchemy and necromancy was done so well. I cannot the the imagery. Look, I have aphantasia. For those who don't know, it's basically when you don't have a mind's eye, when you can't picture things. If I close my eyes and someone says, "Oh, imagine this" or whatever, it's black. It's blank. I cannot imagine anything. However, this book, I think, has cured me of this because the imagery, the description, how the author managed to manipulate her words to create such a brilliant and vivid movie in my head was beyond me. The magic system was done in a way that was so easy to digest. The writing style was very flowy and continuous, and the tone and mood of the dreary post war setting was absolutely to die for. Even though there were so many harrowing and dark moments in it, luckily the author added a couple of, I don't know, funny or sarcastic moments just to live it up a little bit. Otherwise, I fear I would have just spiraled into depression because this book was really heavy. Please, actually, on that note, check your trigger warnings because there are a couple in here. However, I have to say, when I was reading Manacled and I DNF'd it for this purpose, the trigger warnings were not handled, in my opinion, very well in Manacled. However, the trigger warnings in Alchemized were done so well and not too graphic, and they were very not so, you want to bleach your eyes out, done in that kind of way. So I really appreciate the author for handling that extremely well. Very, very good. Good stuff, Senlin Yu. I will read whatever you release. During it, there were so many moments that I just sobbed my heart out. I did not think a book could ever make me cry and feel so many emotions as this one did. And then the last page, I was done. I was expired on the floor for a while. And then after I'd closed the book and moved on, I couldn't move on. I was in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night, I would just sob for no reason. Just just be so sad over this book, that how it ended, that it did end. And every single time I see a quote from it, yeah, maybe it's best if I don't. But honestly, in the best way possible. Please don't think that it is the most depressing book, and like, I don't want to spoil or anything, but it has a lot of bittersweet moments and a lot of hope in the tragic setting that it's in. So let's talk about the characters. Helena and Kane are one of my favorite romantic couples of all time now. Their chemistry was off the charts. Their bond with one another, the struggles that they went through together, how it seemed like they could never have what they deserve or have each other through all the trials and tribulations through the whole book. It was just agony to see them in pain and not be able to be with one another in bliss and without all the stuff happening around them. Yeah, I love this book so much. But I hope that that gave you a sneak peek, a long sneak peek into how brilliant this book is. I really, really hope that you can read it too. And if you have, in the comments below, I'd love to chat. Next book is a palette cleanser because I feel like every book I picked up after Alchemized, it would just be trash and I'd fling it across the room because it's just not going to live up to Alchemized in my opinion. But I digress. So Once More Upon a Time was a really sweet, magical, fairy tale-esque novella that can be read on its own. It's not part of a series. And it was just such a fun time. I adored the characters, the magic, the world building was, although it was contained because it was a small novella, but it was just done so well. The side character of a talking cloak who thinks he's a horse was the best comical relief in a novella I have ever read. Very entertaining. If you need a good palate cleanser, that'll just take your mind off the really big, chunky books. Please read this one. It is super cute, and I have not seen anyone talk about it. I was obviously still feeling very slumpy over Alchemy, so I said, let's just read another novella. Why not? And so I read Six Scorched Roses, and let me tell you, I was so surprised by how much I loved this book. In only 200 pages, this wonderful author managed to make such an intriguing and rich world building, characters who you root for, the chemistry and the relationship between the FMC and the MMC was delectable. It was slow burn. It was so mature because the characters were older than, I don't know, 18 or 20, which was really great. And the curse of the magic system and the roses. Anyways, if you read it, you will understand. If you read it, you know. But I think it was fantastic. And I think that you don't actually, even though I DNF'd book one, which was The Serpent and the Wings of Night, it just didn't do it for me. I thought, you know what, everyone else is raving about how amazing the novella is and how much better it is out of all the books. I thought, okay, I'll just read it. Hopefully, it won't affect or spoil anything. And I don't think it did, in my opinion. And it was just fantastic. And the next book I read, which was the most disgusting book I've read this year, 1 star. I would purchase the book only to throw it in the garbage. That's how much I hate it. However, Come For Me With Apples was a genre blending thriller, but with a bit of sci-fi in it. Anyways, it was just no. The first 50%, I was really intrigued. I didn't know where it was going. That's why I liked it, I guess. The creepy aspects to it were really chilling, and I was invested. I was on my toes. I could not wait to see what would happen next. And then the second half and reveal came. No. How can you make such an unoriginal and trashy and disrespectful plot twist I have ever seen? I don't know. Anyways, I won't go into the spoiler part. If you want to see the spoilers, check out my bookstagram. I have them written down of why I despise this book as much as I did. So let's just say that the plot reveal was not done very well at all, in my opinion. And it really bogged it down to 1 star. If I could give it 0 stars, I'd definitely give it 0 stars. And I read it because, people were saying that I was a really cool genre blending thriller, sci-fi, whatever it is, if you want to call it sci-fi. And it was very short, like, I don't know, 100, 150 pages. It was not worth it at all. But it is what it is. And I'm here to report that I do not recommend at all. Our second book club pick for this year was The Inmate. And wow, another amazing thriller by Frida McFadden. Hands down, one of her best, in my opinion. So The Inmate is about this girl, and when she's younger, she has a boyfriend, and he's a jock. And apparently, he murders somebody, and he goes to jail for murdering somebody. And we are thrown into the present time where she's a lot older and he's in jail, and she's his jail nurse. I don't have the words for it right now, but she's basically the nurse that works at the jail that he's at. And then we start to uncover if he's really the killer or not. This book had so many twists and turns, and I kept second guessing all the characters until the very end. And the last chapter was brilliant. Mind was blown. So if you're looking for a fast-paced, really intriguing thriller, highly recommend this one. So after I read Six Scorched Roses, I thought, Carissa has another standalone in her overarching Crowns of Nyaxia book series called Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. And this one was a fun time, I've got to say. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I really did enjoy the ride. I loved how it followed different characters, I'm guessing, from the original duology. And it touched on magic such as visions. Our FMC is blind, but she can sort of see in one way or another. And the FMC is a vampire lord with horns and that kind of stuff. And she's sent by her priesthood to go and find all the intel about this vampire, what he's planning to do, because there's war happening at the moment, and to eventually, you know, murder him. And obviously, as you would know in a romantasy, they always start off like that. They're going to go kill him and then they fall in love and rah, rah, rah. So you can kind of guess where it goes. But I did have a lot of fun going through the journey with both the characters and seeing how their relationship evolved and fighting evil and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a really nice standalone book. So I was really wanting to branch out to more sci fi. And I thought, all right, let's start small. I like to start small and build my way up. Let's read Summer Frost because it is part of an interconnected standalone novella sci fi series that is so long. And I don't know, I gave it a go. It was fine. Nothing special. Unfortunately, I had just recently seen a movie, a sci fi movie, which was so cool, by the way. I feel like if I tell you what movie it is, it might spoil. But if you haven't seen the movie, it's called Upgrade on Netflix. Wow, what a really cool sci fi techno thriller. I'm just obsessed with that stuff right now. And so I thought, I want to chase that high again. I want to find something that I can read that's very reminiscent of it. And so, although Summer Frost had a lot of elements that were very similar to the movie, I just didn't love the execution. And unfortunately, the plot twists were very similar. So I think that took away from my overall shock factor and enjoyment. But overall, I think it was a nice sci-fi techno thriller story. Unfortunately, in the same series is the book The Last Conversation. Oh my gosh. Disgusting. I feel like the journey was definitely not worth the destination at all. So, as the reader, you were completely in the dark about who you are because this is very unique. I have to say, it was written in second person and you are the character. So it says, you are in this room. It's very dark in here. You don't know where you are. So instead of having a name, it's like a blank space where, the author wants you to insert your name and feel like you are this character. And I found that quite intriguing at first, but then, as you would know, we get to the plot twist and it just was all for nothing. Luckily, it was a very short novella, but yeah, no substance. I couldn't care less. So that's that. Past Me also forgot to do her outro. So I just want to say thank you so much for your patience. I will be sure to get back into posting a bit more frequently, but I won't put myself under any pressure because I understand that although I love to read and post, I have other life commitments. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for hanging out with me. If you want to talk about any of the books I mentioned today, feel free to comment below. I would love to have a chat with you. Take care and see you next time. Bye.